Humans, Challenge Accepted, written by Paggy UK. It started, as all things do, with an idea. A beautiful, creative and spectacular idea. Thought up by one of the galaxy's most insignificant creatures. A creature whose species was so stupid they launched atomic weapons at each other on their home planet. A species so dumb that as soon as they achieved spaceflight, they started fighting each other. So, when one of these humans had the idea that he could go faster in hyperspace by doing things a little different, and rather brazenly decided that the laws of physics did not apply to him, the galaxy took note and waited for the inevitable explosion and debris field. The stubborn little human wrote down his idea and published it in the galactic scientific community, and rather than the expected support and encouragement of his peers, he was wildly ridiculed, and on several occasions the butt of several jokes. Many scientists from across the cosmos pointed out, and quite rightly so, that it was not possible to break the laws of physics, and his idea was pure lunacy, and he should try stand-up comedy. But rather than discourage him, it had the opposite effect, and furthermore, it seemed to galvanize the humans into a solidarity with each other. He completely baffled the whole galaxy, how telling one human he couldn't do something managed to unify their entire race. It became a matter of pride for the human race as they spent untold resources and time on perfecting the idea. Humans were seen as parading around wearing t-shirts emblazoned with logos like "Your rules, not mine" and "Go Team Break Physics," and the galaxy just shook its collective heads and sighed. Then came the day of the test. The humans proudly broadcast the event to the cosmos, and whilst the cosmos looked on with a sense of smug, "I know what comes next" kind of attitude, and a perverse expectation of the violent conclusion to this doomed science experiment, a few still tried to prevent the coming calamity. But the humans were not to be dissuaded, and as the original human whose idea had started the science experiment climbed into the cockpit of the test ship, the humans proudly patted each other on the back and clapped. As he accelerated to hyperspace, the ship's engines bellowing out a quite impressive level of power, the ship seemed to blink out of existence. The explosion that followed completely atomized the little ship. There was absolutely stunning silence from the humans, and then panic as they tried to signal the ship. The galaxy looked on bemused. The pilot of the ship, and the very ship itself, now atoms and one with the galaxy. After several "I told you so's" from several alien species, and more than a few smirks from even more alien races, the humans held an inquiry into what they called the accident. And in fairness to the humans, it was very thorough and unbiased. The humans did not seem afraid to place blame for the tragedy on themselves. But, in an exasperating twist, despite admitting the fault was theirs, it only seemed to spur them on to try again. This time with unmanned ships. Each time they tried the same result, it became a joke to the galaxy. But to the humans, failure spurred them on to try something different, to take a different approach. It was amusing and inspiring at the same time. Several decades passed and the galaxy started to worry. The humans had become obsessed. The resources the humans had put into the science project was incalculable. True, the humans had expanded tenfold, and since unifying, they'd become completely self-sufficient in a way no other race could hope to match. But their fascination with breaking the speed barrier was quite frankly terrifying. The galaxy watched as humans tried one thing, and then that failed. They tried something else, never appearing to run out of crazy ideas or half-baked notions they toiled on. With each setback, they would learn and new technologies would be created. The speed with which they were developing was truly shocking. The ridiculing of humanity for their multiple failures and inability to listen slowly stopped by the other races, as where they once looked on with pity and sometimes the usual smug laughter, it had turned into awe and a grudging respect. Once insane ideas decades previously had galvanized an entire species from being insignificant nobodies into the most talked about race in the galaxy. And what was more amazing was that even though humanity had become these crazy, lunatic mad scientists, they still took the time to take part in galactic events. shared the many technological breakthroughs with the rest of the galaxy, and never once turned anyone down when they needed help. When the plague of Atarax Prime broke out, the humans turned their scientists from their pursuit of going faster to finding a cure. And whilst humanity was not able to find that cure, in record time the collective minds of humanity not only discovered a vaccine but also managed to find a way to negate the plague effects, saving billions of lives and allowing millions of infected to live out their lives in relative comfort. And when the Charlaxian Civil War finally came to its bitter conclusion and the homeworld was a smoking wasteland, humans turned their minds to creating machines which cleansed the atmosphere of poisons, rejuvenated the soil, provided medical care, and even rebuilt their cities. And even when the Zoth declared war on the humans simply turned their attention to building ships and weapons, the likes of which the galaxy had never seen before. And within a year, the Zoth had sued for peace. But with every tragedy that the humans helped solve, and with every situation they found themselves in, once they turned the collective minds to a problem, it was solved in record time. And as soon as it was solved, they would go straight back to solving the original insane bright idea of going faster in hyperspace. It was now 50 years since the first attempt at going faster. The humans are again making another attempt. It had become an event of sorts in the galaxy now, betting on how long the ship would last before it inevitably exploded. And as the ship accelerated towards hyperspace, the galaxy once again fervently started betting. There was the inevitable flash, but instead of an explosion, there sat the human ship, intact and somehow looking older. The galaxy was stunned. What had just happened? Human scientists, after a shocked couple seconds, immediately started whooping and cheering, hugging each other in many cases, breaking down in tears of relief. The galaxy looked on as the humans immediately began planning for a manned test. Scientists from numerous races immediately began asking the question, what the hell did they just do? The humans, rather than being smug, invited those very same scientists who once ridiculed them to join in the research and development, sharing their data and results with everyone. What had once been a human obsession now became the galaxy's first collective science project. In a mere couple of years since the successful test, an entirely new form of space travel had been developed, which the humans shared willingly with everyone. A journey which would have taken months to complete could now be done in mere hours. Humans had completely undone the laws of physics by stubbornly not giving up. And now, when an idea is put forward, no matter how batshit crazy it is, the galaxy ponders the idea and looks at the possibilities, instead of just dismissing it. And the humans, well, they were asked what now that their collective great work was complete. After what they termed as a well-earned vacation, they started on their next great project, and when they were asked what that was, the humans simply turned around and said, making an actual edible pot noodle. End of story. Story number 2. A Brutal War, written by Zalurka. We don't want to escalate this any further. The Muthrak Admiral looked over the table at his Terran counterpart. Admiral Pierce crossed his arms and looked back at them. The Muthrak were an imposing race, tall, slim, covered in armored plates. Predator species from a desert Deathworld. They were on the same technological level as Terra. According to intelligence reports, they were also a close match on resources and military capabilities. A military conflict between them would be a zero-sum game. His mission's brief was to find a quick and peaceful solution to this mess. Centralia was a small system on the outskirts of Terran space. No habitable planets, a few planetoids, and a small asteroid belt. Not even the most desperate prospector would even bother to go there. The Terran survey team who discovered it deployed a claim beacon simply as standard procedure. Unfortunately, they did it at the same time as a Muthrak survey team, who was on the other side of the star. No one had even noticed until a piracy patrol had entered the system and picked up 2 beacons. While investigating, the Muthrak frigate also entered the system. An after-action report later showed that the first shot was fired by an enterprising privateer who wanted a distraction to escape their piracy patrol. The two ships traded shots and then pulled back after suffering damage. The Mothrak beacon was destroyed during the skirmish. Luckily, no one was injured during the battle, and saner minds prevailed. A larger frigate was dispatched to investigate, only to find the Terran beacon destroyed and a large Mothrak one deployed. Together with the remains of the Terran privateer who had started this mess and an action report showing that the privateer was responsible. Unfortunately, the beacon was a bit of a sticky bit. In the end, the frigate disabled the Mothrak beacon and deployed a new Terran one, together with a really nice bottle of bourbon. All research had showed that the Mothrak had comparable metabolism and also enjoyed alcohol, which was confirmed when the next patrol discovered the Terran beacon disabled and a bottle of really good Mothrak ale on the repaired Mothrak beacon. And so began the Terran Mothrak War. The only casualties were some electronics and a few really bad hangovers. This continued for a decade until the Kalenji, a Terran ally, declared war on the Kodan, a Mothrak ally. All of a sudden, the disagreement over ownership of Centralia became a major talking point. Neither races wanted to get pulled into the Kalenji-Kodan war, but it looked inevitable. Which is how Admiral Pierce had ended up here, in a diplomatic frigate in orbit of the second planetoid around Centralia, facing his Mothrak equivalent, and a massed fleet from both navies in orbit of what could be called the All-Cloud. I agree completely, but the solution to this dispute has to be found. Unfortunately, it's a matter of Terran pride. The Mothrak blinked with his two eyelids. That is the main issue. A peaceful settlement would be preferred, but unless it is in our favor, factions in our all think would bounce on it as weakness. I would be hounded out of the fleet and be replaced by a more proactive commander. Pierce sighed, so he either sort out this diplomatically or face a more hawkish Mothrak fleet the next time. Admiral, we do not want to continue this either. We can both agree. This is ridiculous. This system is worthless. It has no strategic value, less resources than a mine dump. Heck, the only thing of value I've ever seen from here was a bottle of your wine. The Admiral sat back and squinted at him. According to the briefing, it was their method of smiling. Was it a long bottle with a purple wine? If so, it's a specialty of the Darga Peninsula, my place of birth.
Worst hangover of my life,
Pierce chuckled. You should enjoy it with chillin berries. It helps. The Mothrak leaned forward, all of a sudden serious. Admiral, the only way this can be favorably settled is through some type of conflict. This place is of no value to us either, but any other type of solution should be seen as a sign of weakness. Pierce certainly had an idea.
Admiral, does it have to be any type of conflict, not just one involving violence?
Yes, it does not have to be a physical battle, just one where one of our parties is triumphant. He looked down at the Mothrak's hands, 3 fingers and a thumb on each hand.
Have you ever heard of the human game rock, paper, scissors?
And so the Terran Mothrak War ended, with an amicable settlement and a massive hangover the next day. End of story. I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Vidmori, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.